Hi, friends, and welcome back to another episode of Faith Focus. I'm really glad you're here with me today. This one's close to my heart, and honestly, it's something I've been wanting to talk about for a while. Not because I've got it all figured out, but because I'm walking through it right now, and I found it incredibly life-giving, so I thought I'd share. Today we're talking about formation and what that word really means, and more specifically, the often overlooked gift of spiritual direction. Now, this might sound like something reserved for religious or the hyper-devout, but I want to challenge that idea. If you're human and you're seeking a life of meaningful Catholicism, then formation and spiritual direction are for you. So let's start with the word formation. It gets thrown a lot around in Catholic circles, but if you're like me, maybe you didn't grow up really knowing what it meant. I used to think it just meant learning a lot about the catechism and memorizing prayers and knowing what God, the church teaches, but, that's part of it. But real formation, that's actually a lot deeper. Formation is the shaping of the whole person, including your intellect, your habits, your desires, your spiritual awareness, to reflect Christ. And it's not just education, it's transformation. So here's the kicker. I used to think I had great formation. I was raised in a devout Catholic family. We were in church constantly, prayed the rosaries, did novenas, read the Bible. We had saints on every wall, you name it. But now, as an adult, I can see that what I actually had was cultural Catholicism. It was a very specific expression of the faith, Italian to be exact. It was deeply traditional, and in some ways, it was actually narrow. So there were things that we went all in on, right? So we had a big devotion to Mary and sacramentals, a lot of traditional Latin mass. We wore veils in church and kneeled to receive the Eucharist and only ever on the tongue, But there were other parts of the Catholic tradition that we ignored or actually outright maligned. So like simple example would be contemplative prayer. That comes really naturally to me, sitting in silence with the Lord, journaling, stillness, nature. But I grew up being told that that wasn't real prayer. If it wasn't a rosary or a novena, it didn't count. As a matter of fact, my mother to this day, if you say pray, to her, pray is doing a whole rosary, not just saying a Hail Mary. So quietly, I carried this guilt that somehow I was failing at prayer, even though I was still drawing closer to God. And it wasn't until I started spiritual direction with this specific Catholic sister, I'm 50 years old, it took me half a century to learn this, that the lights really came on. And she's a full-time religious, so her nunship, so her ministry is quite literally to walk with people like me on their faith journey. And as she will come to know me, not just what I believe, but how I think and how I relate to God, she's able to gently point out where I've absorbed distortions or where my formation might be out of balance. She's already introduced me to practices like a daily examen, which has been really insightful for me. She's recommended lectures from different Catholic orders, helped me explore traditions from the Dominicans to the Franciscans, and basically open the doors of this massive, universal 2,000-year-old church in a way I've never experienced it before. And that's something that the Catholic Church does really well. Formation through direction. Because we're not just some scrappy startup religion. We are a global church with centuries of wisdom, structure, theology, and experience in guiding souls. And when you receive spiritual direction in the Catholic tradition, you're drawing from the deep well of saints, mystics, and doctors of the church. People like Saint Teresa of Avila, Saint John of the Cross, Saint Ignatius of Loyola, and Saint Catherine of Siena, all of whom wrote extensively about the interior life and the necessity of spiritual accompaniment. Saint Ignatius, for example, didn't just invent the spiritual exercises. He insisted they be done with a director. He knew how easy it is to deceive ourselves or to mistake our own voice for God's. Spiritual direction is not about someone telling you what to do. It's about walking with someone who can help you discern and help you hear God more clearly, not less. Now, I know some people bristle at the idea of having a spiritual director, or even more especially at the idea of being obedient to one. And if that's you, then let me ask you this gently. Where else are you getting direction from? Because if we're honest, most of us are following someone. Maybe not a nun or a priest, but an influencer, a coach, a thought leader. Maybe it's Oprah or Eckhart Tolle or a podcast guru or a fitness app. Maybe it's a popular author or lifestyle brand. Maybe it's a certain aesthetic that's become a religion to you. We love vision boards and life hacks and chanting affirmations and manifesting. But if you've rejected spiritual direction as controlling or old-fashioned while fully embracing a 75-day fitness challenge or an $800 coaching package from a self-appointed expert, then maybe, just maybe, there's something worth exploring there. See, anyone can take a 6-week course and call themselves a transformational coach, but that's not how it works in the church. Formation here takes years. For example, if you're discerning a third order like the Dominican laity, it can take 5 years before you're even allowed to use the letters OP behind your name. The church moves slowly and for a reason. It wants to form deeply, not just efficiently. My spiritual director is quite advanced in years. She didn't just hang up a shingle and start charging people. And she doesn't charge at all, as a matter of fact. She's been formed for this work through years of religious life, community, discernment, service, and spiritual study. She brings wisdom, not just technique. She has seen it all. She has no product to sell, no subscription model, no brand building agenda. When I was accepted into spiritual direction, not one person asked me for a dime. Now, I may choose to donate, of course, but her guidance is not transactional. It's a ministry. Her life living in a convent allows for her to practice a vocation like this without having to worry about earning a salary. The church provides for her. That keeps her motives and therefore her direction for me clean and pure. And because of that, I can trust her and trust her deeply. Last month, we had a phone call, and things she shared with me sent me on an information gathering deep dive that has enriched my life in ways I can't even begin to describe. I've started praying differently, living differently, exploring more deeply, and I can't wait to bring the fruits of that journey into our next meeting. I've already unlearned some of the resistance I had to things like Novus Ordo Mass on my own. I did that because I was raised with a very not subtle bias against Vatican II. I had to learn how to fall in love with the Mass again, and I'm still learning. Her spiritual direction will help me re-enter the beauty of the liturgy, not just as an obligation, but as an intimate encounter. And she's helping me unlearn other blocks as well that will not only help me deepen my relationship with Christ, but also help me apply that to every area of my life in a healthy, balanced way, and that includes my vocation. So if you're listening to this and you've been craving something deeper, maybe you felt stuck or dry in prayer, or you've been hopping from one book or podcast or expert to the next, hoping someone will help you figure out your life or your faith, maybe what you really need isn't another guru. Maybe you just need a spiritual director. So go ask your priest, look at local religious orders. You don't have to be advanced or holy. You just have to be open. In my case, I emailed the Franciscan order, and somebody returned my call, and there we go. It was that simple. So just look for them online. Their websites are usually not that sophisticated. Don't let that discourage you. Just Take their email, send them an email, and somebody will get back to you. A good director will help you hear God's voice more clearly. They'll help you uncover your vocation, your charism, your patterns of grace and resistance. They'll help you bring your spiritual life into balance, whether you're married, single, discerning religious life, or just trying to be a better human. You don't have to walk this path alone, and you were never meant to. Spiritual direction is a fundamental aspect or fruit of our Catholic faith. And when you support your local church, you're also supporting stuff like this, these vital, uplifting services that are open to you anytime you need them. And you're helping to provide that support to everyone in your parish as well. So thanks for joining me for this episode. If this resonated with you, or if you have a story about spiritual direction or formation you'd love to share, please put so in comments. We'd love to hear it. And please like and subscribe. It really helps us when you do. And as always, keep your focus on the faith and the faith in your focus. God bless, and I'll see you next time.